Secretary, do you think the United States should continue supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia, a nation that is hostile towards the United States?
Well, as you know, sir, President Trump is committed to peace.
No, I just want yes or no answers.
Today, the United States has spent billions of dollars.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Over years.
Just yes or no. Can I get a yes or no out of you?
We continue to send.
Come on.
Presidential drawdown.
It's that easy. Kindergartners can give me a yes or no. Yes or no.
Yes, we support peace in Ukraine.
Come on. Is this really leadership? You're an embarrassment to the United States. If Russia invades NATO allies, are you going to recommend to the president that we fulfill our Article 5 obligations?
Well, Russia has not invaded NATO allies.
No.
President Trump.
No. I reclaim my time. Yes or no? It's that simple.
There's Article 5 in NATO, which we recognize.
So is the answer yes or no?
That's what Article 5 is, yes.
Good. I'm glad you brought yourself to saying yes. Do you think political allegiance to Trump is a requirement for serving our nation, either in uniform or a civilian in the department?
I'm incredibly proud, as are millions of Americans.
No. Not today, Hegseth. Yes or no?
Congressman, you know what a silly question that is.
But it's silly enough to warrant a very straightforward answer. Yes or no?
We all support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
You know what? I'm not going to waste my time anymore. You're not worthy of my attention or my questions. You're an embarrassment to this country. You're unfit to lead. And there's been bipartisan members of Congress that have called for your resignation. You should just get the hell out and let somebody competently lead this department.
That was not an inquiry. It was a public takedown. Pete Hegseth, the individual commanding the most formidable armed forces across the globe, was just informed directly that he brings utter disgrace to our nation and ought to step down immediately by a Marine during a live, televised official proceeding. He dismissed the loyalty inquiry as ridiculous, repeating the weak evasion he utilized constantly on weekend broadcasts. Except this is no longer cable television, and the chamber watched the defense leader crumble under the simplest yes or no inquiries. If that specific exchange resonated with you as strongly as it did with me, please press like and share below exactly when you knew he was totally defeated.
It shouldn't come as no surprise that I have serious concerns with both the deployment of the National Guard and the Marines to Los Angeles. I served in the Marine Corps. We are trained to be war fighters, not for crowd control. Everyone here should be alarmed that the president has sent armed forces into a city against the wishes of a governor and mayor. I am concerned this administration is purposely escalating the situation with this step and politicizing our armed forces in the process. Let's call it for what it is. It's political theater. Hegseth, are the Marines in Los Angeles ordered to protect property by any means necessary?
Sir, I would say the ICE officers and police officers being attacked is not political theater. The National Guard and Marines.
Just yes or no. Just yes or no.
The National Guard and Marines have the full authority to protect federal ICE agents.
Yes or no.
Just,
can you just say yes or no? This isn't Fox anymore. Just yes or no.
They're there to protect federal agents and federal.
Another BS answer. Under the SRUF, the use of force, are Marines allowed to fire warning shots?
No.
Now that's more like it. Isn't that easy? Well, you know, I'm going to beat this drum because you refuse to take responsibility. Will you take responsibility for having made a mistake? Not to mention, many people would say break the law in participating in the Signal group chat that included a journalist, your wife, your brother, where classified information was shared.
Sir, every way I communicate is authorized.
Okay, if you want to say that. I have called for your resignation. I didn't think you were qualified before your confirmation, and you have done nothing to inspire confidence in your ability to lead competently. You broke the law in sharing classified information, and in doing so, endangered the lives of our service members that you are responsible for. Your inability to hold yourself accountable makes you incapable to lead. This alone makes you unfit to be the Secretary of Defense.
Carbajal avoided starting with partisan rhetoric and instead began by invoking his service in the Marine Corps, fully understanding its core mission is to engage and eliminate adversaries rather than occupy domestic streets in defiance of local and state leadership. Observe how relentlessly he presses the topic of engagement protocols, demanding an absolute affirmative or negative regarding the authorization of warning shots. Hegseth finally delivers a straightforward response for once, which is met with sheer disdain from Carbajal, who sarcastically noted how simple that was. Following this arrives the definitive statement that ought to have concluded the entire spectacle right on the spot. This is no longer a friendly cable news network. That solitary remark completely dismantled half a year of carefully rehearsed evasions. The nominee devoted years to a television studio environment, featuring gentle inquiries, virtually non-existent pushback, and a viewer base that unconditionally supported him. Inside that congressional chamber, time is strictly limited. Inquiries are crafted to corner the witness, and prepared political rhetoric holds absolutely no value. He failed to adapt when confronted about the encrypted application messages, responding with a distinctly broadcast-style defense, claiming all his communications are officially permitted. He offered no refutation regarding a reporter's presence in the group, lacked any dispute about his family members being included, and completely failed to deny the transmission of sensitive military strike logistics. Consider the vocabulary of someone who remains entirely focused on a broadcast audience, rather than providing accountability to the governing body overseeing the agency he intends to direct. Carbajal refused to frame the situation as a simple digital blunder, instead characterizing it as the actions of a leader who jeopardized military personnel without taking responsibility, culminating in his vocal declaration that the man is simply unfit.
Yeah, Dana, this report is still classified. It has not been publicly released yet, but sources telling me and our colleague Jake Tapper that the Inspector General for the Pentagon did conclude that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, risked compromising sensitive military information which could have endangered American troops and risked mission objectives when he used signal to share that information about an ongoing military operation targeting the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That was back in March. You may remember that these messages were revealed after Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg was accidentally added to this Signal group chat. And some of these messages are so specific, one of them even saying from Hegseth, quote, "This is the exact time the bombs will drop." So the Inspector General has been investigating Hegseth's use of Signal for several months now, since April. And we're now finding that he came to the same conclusion that many of the critics, current and former U.S. officials did at the time, that Hegseth should not have been using Signal to communicate this sensitive information to other Trump officials, and that the potential consequences of that could have been dire.
Carbajal's statements inside that chamber did not stay a mere partisan charge for very long. Several months afterward, the internal watchdog for the Defense Department documented the matter formally. Their findings determined that Hegseth breached military protocols by utilizing a private encrypted application to share classified mission logistics, including aircraft numbers and exact attack schedules, just hours prior to American aviators entering dangerous skies above Yemen. The lead investigator explicitly noted how this communication breach posed a severe threat to operational security, potentially leading to mission failures and endangering our pilots. He refused to participate in a formal interview with authorities, opting to provide a drafted declaration instead. Consequently, the real-time accusation made by Carbajal, claiming the defense leader jeopardized the troops under his command, received validation from the agency's official oversight division. The only distinction lies in the phrasing utilized. During the congressional session, these words were spoken by a veteran Marine facing strict time constraints. Within the investigative document, the same conclusion was presented through the detached and formal terminology of an institutional ruling. The disparity between these two accounts remains minimal, as one was vocalized while the other was written, yet both highlighted the exact same severe shortcoming. This confrontation certainly did not occur in isolation. Pete Hegseth entered that committee chamber as the result of a highly particular career trajectory. He never ascended through traditional military echelons, nor did he lead a combat unit or manage a tactical operations center with direct authority over the lives of his subordinates. Instead, his background consisted of weekend broadcast television, featuring flattering production elements, supportive colleagues, and viewers inherently inclined to support his viewpoints. His appointment approval was the narrowest among all current cabinet officials, resulting in a deadlock that necessitated the vice president's tie-breaking vote. Such an outcome does not represent a decisive mandate, it constitutes a sheer political bailout. Over the subsequent half-year, various scandals accumulated with virtually zero institutional pushback. The encrypted group chat involving a reporter and family members in tactical planning, the silent dismissal of top military attorneys, the effort to reinstate controversial military base titles, and the choice to deploy active personnel on domestic streets did absolutely nothing to prepare him for a committee that refuses to applaud on command. Carbajal arrived possessing something Hegseth entirely lacks, which is genuine combat deployment experience within the Marine Corps. This is far more than a simple biographical footnote. It represents the profound gap between observing the military externally and deeply understanding its fundamental purpose from within. While one individual devoted years to projecting an image of resilience for television audiences, the other actually inhabited the rigorous environment that requires true fortitude. Therefore, once the inquiries grew intense, this substantial discrepancy became glaringly obvious. Broadcast industry tendencies simply cannot withstand the scrutiny of legitimate congressional oversight. Prepared political rhetoric that succeeds during early morning entertainment programming completely disintegrates when an elected official with verified military credentials prevents any attempt to deflect, change the subject, or stall for time. This situation was never merely about a single testimony. Rather, it demonstrated the inevitable fallout of forcing a media-based resume to bear massive institutional burdens it was entirely unequipped to handle. The more time this glaring incompatibility remained unaddressed, the more severe the ultimate collision was destined to become. His behavioral tendencies were entirely transparent from the start. Whenever an inquiry demanded a straightforward response, Hegseth resorted to identical tactics of deflection and redirection, utilizing broad statements that feigned competence while conveying absolutely no real substance. Regarding foreign aid to Ukraine, he merely stated that they advocate for peaceful resolutions. When questioned about Article 5 mutual defense treaties, he discussed current events rather than hypothetical scenarios, and he dismissed inquiries regarding his devotion to the chief executive as completely ridiculous. This behavior does not demonstrate prudence. It reveals a deeply ingrained, performative instinct. Observe the progression carefully, and it reveals an entirely robotic methodology. Carbajal poses a strict yes or no question. Hegseth launches into an extended monologue, and Carbajal immediately interrupts to reclaim his speaking time. The intensity continuously builds until a grudging affirmative is finally extracted, and then the entire frustrating loop starts over. This is absolutely not the appropriate conduct for a Secretary of Defense facing congressional scrutiny, but rather the survival tactic of a television host enduring an adversarial broadcast segment. The most illuminating instant was not found in any specific legislative response, but rather in his declaration that he serves solely at the behest of the president. That specific phrase directs all responsibility exclusively toward a single individual, completely bypassing legal frameworks, constitutional duties, institutional norms, and the millions of military and civilian personnel working beneath his direct command. Within any legitimate armed forces environment, such a response would be considered severely deficient. True responsibility is inherently bidirectional, requiring a leader to fully own their choices as well as the individuals they command. A genuine leader cannot deflect blame upward during difficult moments while simultaneously demanding absolute power when deciding to take action. The congressional session unveiled more than just inadequate responses. It exposed a management philosophy that views legal oversight as a mere annoyance, while elevating personal allegiance as the singular metric of value. Once this operational framework becomes apparent, the remainder of the dialogue ceases to appear as merely tough questioning and instead looks entirely inescapable. The concluding interaction did not materialize randomly. It served as the rational culmination of every single preceding event. When Hegseth dismissed the loyalty inquiry as foolish, Carbajal simply ceased his questioning. He had witnessed the behavioral loop for a sufficient duration, noting the constant deflections, evasions, and calculated phrasing that successfully avoided any meaningful substance. By that specific juncture, the actual inquiries had morphed into matters of secondary importance. All that was left was the final verdict declaring him a national disgrace, incapable of leadership, and demanding his immediate departure. These harsh statements carried tremendous weight, precisely because they transcended standard partisan divisions. Conservative representatives on the Armed Services Committee had previously voiced their own apprehensions during prior meetings. Republican senators had aggressively scrutinized the postponed financial plans, the management of foreign military assistance, and the broader trajectory of the defense agency. The controversy surrounding the encrypted messaging application provoked sharp condemnation from members of every political affiliation. When Carbajal referenced unified demands for his resignation, he was not fabricating a political narrative, but rather accurately citing an established and verified public record. An even more profound issue rests beneath each of these individual scandals. When confronted regarding personal responsibility, Hegseth simply reiterated that he serves exclusively at the discretion of the president. Such a perspective fails to constitute a comprehensive leadership philosophy for the massive organization he intends to direct. Within armed forces traditions, accountability flows dynamically, meaning leaders answer to their superiors while simultaneously taking full ownership of the personnel and decisions under their authority. True commanders never displace blame exclusively in one direction, while asserting total dominance in the opposite direction. Carbajal comprehended this foundational culture from extensive first-hand involvement. This is precisely why the clash possessed a gravity that it could never have achieved if initiated by a standard partisan rival. A seasoned Marine was directly informing the civilian commander of the armed forces that he lacked the most fundamental prerequisite for the position. The committee chairman's concluding request for order was subdued and deeply institutional. It represented the profound silence of an entire chamber processing a statement that could never be retracted. A brief, forceful command from a Marine to the Secretary of Defense, delivered publicly and permanently. Step down immediately. This specific instant will define the entire proceeding, not due to its volume, but because it accurately identified a glaring deficiency that had been obvious for months and completely abandoned any pretense of politeness. If this breakdown aligns with your own observations of that session, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments regarding exactly when the ultimate collapse occurred.